Welcome back to the channel. So today we will be starting with our new series, that is object-oriented programming in Python. So this is lecture 1 and it is an introductory video of object-oriented programming. Here I will not be writing any piece of code on a console, but I would be making the base, basically how we can start with object-oriented programming, why we need it, what are the pillars, and all those things we would be talking about, right? So let's see the agenda of today's video. So we would talk about what is OOPS basically, right? What are the pillars? What is class and object? What is methods in classes? And what would be the class and method when we uh, like for a given application? So this is the thing which you must have seen other videos also on object-oriented programming, but this is what was missing in other videos that I found, that nobody has talked about this, right? So this we will be talking about, and this is very important when we work on a real-time project and a complex application, like how we will come to know what exactly we should have a class as a class, what should be the object, right? And what would be the method of that particular class, and all those things we would be learning in theory. And in our next video, you can see here, we would be writing the piece of code for all those things which we are discussing in this video, right? So what are the important things which we need to take care while writing the object-oriented programming way of code, right? So that we will see. And in the next video, as I discussed, we will see the practical implementation of all these things. So let's start. So what is OOPS basically? OOPS. So you might be knowing the full form basically. This is object oriented programming, right? So by looking at the full form of this, you like this is very easy to understand that we deal with objects, right? The entire code we write revolves around object. An object of what? Class, right? So now we come to these two words, object and class. So let's understand, let's try to Google what exactly is basically the object. First, before going to the object and classes, let's Google what is OOPS basically. So let me write what is OOPS, right? So let me write. So if you see here, what it is saying, as the name suggests, object-oriented programming refer to the language that uses objects in programming. They use object as a primary source to implement what is happen in the code. So like we know other way of writing the code, right? We write the functional programming also. You might have heard functional programming. And this is what object-oriented programming. So these are the two object-oriented programming. So let me write like this. So these are the two popular ways in which we write the program. So what is basically the functional programming? So in functional programming, we do not deal with objects. Got it? We deal with function. So how do we write the functional programming code? So this is, I think, simple. So for each and every action, what we write? We write functions, right? And since we are learning this object-oriented programming in Python, so how do we write function? We write def keyword and then function name, we pass the parameter, and then we write the our code over here, right? So this is what the functional programming is. For each and every task, what we do, we write functions. But here we are learning about object-oriented programming. So here the code revolves around object, right? And object is made of what? Class. So basically the object of object is from the class, right? So now it's time to Google what exactly the class and object is. So let me write what is class in OOPS. Okay, so let's read. In object-oriented programming, a class is a template definition of the method and variable in a particular kind of object. Okay, so let me explain you. So now like we are at the point to begin with what is class and what is object. So here we like in the definition we we encountered with this word template, right? So basically what exactly the class is, let me explain you. So it is the encapsulation of variables, or we can say that attribute and methods. Okay, so let me write. So if we have, let me write the variables. So for let's say um, we are making, we are creating and class of book, right? We are creating a class of book. So what all things a book can have, right? What all things a book can have. So in if we talk about the variables, then can we have a variable like name, right? Can we have a variable like name? And we can have similarly the methods also, right? So let's not take the example of book. Let me take the example of vehicle, basically vehicle, right? So variable can be, so let me write variable. So we can have a variable as a name of that particular class, that particular vehicle. We can have model number, right? And similarly, so these are what? These are variables, or we can say that the attributes of a vehicle, and we can have method, right? So we can have a method, right? Brake, right? So these things would be clear once we talk more about these things. So you understood, right? So basically, this is a template, basically template of or encapsulation of variables and method, right? And we create object. Let me write this line. So we create object of a class, right? So let me Google what exactly the definition of objects, right? So let's see. An object can be defined as a data field that has a unique attribute and behavior. Got it? So basically, here if you see, we wrote this class. The class, the name of the class is vehicle, right? So here we have some attributes and some method. So these methods, this method is what? This is a behavior, right? Behavior. Break is what? Behavior. We can have another method as run, right? So this is what? This is behavior. So what is basically object? Object is created with the like object holds what? This holds the reference of a class, and the class have variables and methods. Got it? So I think the definition of these two terminologies are clear. So we have covered this thing. What is OOPS basically? What is classes? What is methods? Now let's talk about pillars of OOPS. So basically we have four pillars of OOPS. Four pillars of OOPS, right? So what are they? We have encapsulation. We have polymorphism. We have, okay, we have inheritance, and the fourth one is abstraction. So these are the four pillars around which object-oriented programming revolves. And out of these, like these two are the pillars which we very oftenly use. Like these are the thing. These two are the pillars which we very oftenly used in the real world, right? So these things we will talk in our later videos. So I just wanted to mention basically what are the pillars of OPS, since this is the introductory video. So this is also done. Now let's talk about what would be the classes and what would be the um, methods while creating the application, right? So, okay, let me erase this thing. So before talking about the classes and like methods, how do we write? Let me explain you the syntax basically. Syntax while for writing the classes and object. So the syntax is class, we write this keyword. So this is the keyword, basically the class keyword, and then class name. So this basically we follow the camel case convention, and then we write this, and then we write the constructor. So this I will talk about in our future videos in it. And then here we write self, this also we will talk. And here we write the parameter 1, parameter 2, so on and so forth. And here we write self dot parameter 1 equal to parameter 1. So this basically, and then we write self dot parameter 2 equal to parameter 2, and so on and so forth. Here we can have n number of parameters. So this is what? This is basically the constructor, right? And these are basically instance variable, instance, or we can say that the object variable, right? And then we have the next thing is methods. Def, let's say we write method 1, and then we write the code of it, so we can write pass. So this is basically the syntax of uh, classes, right? So now let's talk about like how do we decide what should be the class and what should be the method. So while writing the code, let's say we get an problem statement, and there, like from the start only, the task is that we need to write the code in object oriented programming way, right? It's not like we can start with the functional programming. So there, before like writing the code, we need to design the template, right? How exactly we write the code. So how we can decide what should be the class and what should be the method in that particular application. So let's say we are making a library management system, right? So let's say we are making a library management system. So this we have to make using the object oriented programming way. We cannot use the functional programming, right? So how like we can decide what should be the classes and what should be the method. So let's think about the problem statement. So what all things would be there in a library? We will have the library, right? Then we can have, we will have a book in the library. We will have users, right, in the library. And then uh, we will have to track the basically track the books, right? So we can write track books, right? So similarly, track books, right, we can write. So as of now, like this is what I can think of, right? So these are the things would be there in the object orient like basically when we write when we write code for the library management system. So if we write this using the functional programming, so what we can have, can we have a four different function? So this can be function 1, this can be function 2, this can be function 3, this can be function 4, right? We can have four different functions over there, right? So if when we write the code in the functional way, but Here we are talking about to write the code in the object-oriented programming way. So let me tell you how you can identify, like out of these things, what could be your basically the uh, classes and what could be the methods, right, for the given application. So whenever you see in a problem statement nouns, right, nouns, so straight away you can, or you can say that the entity, you can say that it is a class. And what is the method? These are verbs, right? So like this is not an English video, like English speaking or anything like that, but yeah, this is how we identify basically how to like what would be the classes and what would be the method. So basically while writing the object oriented programming way of code, you will have to relate it with the real world scenarios, right? You will have to relate it with that. So let me Google it, what exactly the noun and what exactly the verb is. So what is noun? So let me write. Okay. Okay. So if you see here, what is noun? Basically, a person, place, a thing, or idea is nothing but noun, right? So let me write this. Person, place, thing, and idea. So in a given problem statement, wherever you see person, let me change the color of pen. Person, place, thing, idea, or you can say that the concept. So that those are the thing which you can like create as class. Got it? That this thing we will relate with our like library management thing. And the second is so this is basically a noun, right? And now it's time to cover verbs. So basically, let me write the verb. So I think I like we can we know like what exactly the verb is. So this is basically an action, right? An action. So like the action in a given problem statement is nothing but methods basically, right? And and so we learned one more thing about, right, attributes. So attributes are nothing but variables or the things which will be required to classes and methods, right? So let's try to uh, see what can be here the classes and what can be the methods over here. So let me clear the space of from here. So let's write what can be the class and what can be the methods in this example. Okay. So if you see here, library, this is what? This is a thing. So we can put this in the class. Book. Book is also a thing. So we can put in the class. Similarly, user, this is also a thing we can put in the class. Method. If you see here, track books. So basically we track a book, right? We cannot leave the book as it is. So basically when a person or a student takes a book, we track it like from which duration to which duration he has taken the book and all those things basically, right? And before giving the book to a particular um, person, we track if that particular book is available in the library management system or not. So we can basically write a function like borrow book, borrow book. So this can be other thing. So a user basically, or a user or a student, or so for whomsoever we are making this application, so he or she will borrow the book, right? So this can be a part of user class, right? So we can write the methods like track books. We can write the a method like borrow book. So if you see here, these are what? These are totally aligned with the definition. So these are nothing but actions, right? And these are nothing but nouns basically. So now I think this should be clear in your head that for a particular application, or which, like any application, when you see the problem statement, you can easily identify what would be the classes and what would be the methods. Understood? So I think this is the thing which I have never seen in any of the video on a YouTube, right? So this thing we will like write the code of all these things in our next video. So let's revise our syntax basically. Syntax, right? So let me expand this. So the syntax now would be, we will have a class keyword, then we will have noun, right? Then here we will have constructor. This we will talk about in our next video. Uh, what is self keyword, why we need constructor, and all those things. Here we write the basically the attributes, and then we have the methods. We have like different kind of methods in Python that we will talk about in our future videos. So def, and so let me change the color. So here we will have def, and then we can write verbs. So this can be verb 1. Here we write the code. You know the working, like how the pass keyword works. So here we can write the next verb 2, and we can write def, right? And we can write pass. I hope you understood. So now this is the formula basically, or syntax, right? So let me explain you how we call the object, how we call the class. So how do we call function? So let's say I write a function, right? Sum a comma b, right? And we return a plus b from here. So how do we call function? We write sum, and then we write 1 comma 2. Since we are returning, so we'll store it somewhere, and we will print ans, right? This is how we call the function. So same way, like we can call the method like classes also. So what we need to do, we need to write the class name, that is noun, and then here this basically the parameters. This we call as instance variable, or we call as object variable. So instance and object, these are the two things which are used interchangeably, right? Here we pass, and this basically when we, so if you see the syntax here, if you see, like we have open and close the bracket. If you see here, we don't have. So this basically goes over here in the constructor. Got it? These are the parameter which we pass from here, goes here, and self is the default which you have to write, right? And this, like what exactly this self store, let me explain you. So this we can write as noun1, the reference. So we, like this class must have created somewhere in the memory, right? So that particular reference get stored over here in this cell, right? So for the same method, so for the same class, we can have n number of instances, or we can say that the object, we can again call this noun again. So again, for this one, let's say this got stored, n1 got stored, n1 got stored at location, let's say 241, right? Again, we created another object. This n2 gets stored 242, right? So that's how these gets differentiated. So this we will like talk about in our next video in execution in our console display. So how do we call these methods? So these are called here we need to pass basically the self keyword if it is a uh, instance method. Basically this will talk about like different kind of classes, different kind of method basically in our future videos. How do we call this verb1 and verb2? Verb1 and verb2, so this is what, let me write over here again. This is basically an action in the given application. This is our action. So for a given noun we can have more actions, right? So that we write. So how do we call these actions? We write n1, that is the object name, dot this verb1. This is how we call methods. Got it? Similarly, if I want to call the object like from the object to, so I can write verb to. So when we call this one n1 dot verb1, so this will refer to this location 241, right? And when we call this one, so this will refer to 242. Got it? Right. So if you see here, like a class is responsible for doing one task. Got it? So here comes the solid principle, right? This we'll talk about in our future video. So if you see here, this noun, basically, let's say if we write this for user, basically, right? So this entire thing is responsible for user, right? User. So a class should be unique in itself. It's not like a class is doing a job for two other entities. So it cannot like we can have a function in a class for a user also, a function for a class of book also. This cannot happen, right? There it comes the solid principle basically of design that we need to take care while writing the code. So I think we talked a lot of things which were there in our agenda. So this is what I was talking about. These are the things which we need to take care. So in our next video, basically we will write the code and see all these things in action, right? So if you like this content, please do like, subscribe and share the channel. And if you're new to this channel, you can find our other playlist. We have a lot of interview related content on our channel. So you can check out those also. So let's meet in the next problem or next tutorial. Until then, bye.